He laughed when I said, "I'm not like the others." Everyone says that, right? Everyone who wants to be remembered, who wants to leave something behind in the soft darkness of someone else's mind. I saw it in his eyes, this quiet, confident smirk, as if he already knew everything about me, about how the night would end. Like he had already filed me away with the others who just want to feel desired for a few hours before going back to pretending nothing ever mattered. I didn't say anything else. I just let that silence hang in the room while the music from downstairs pulsed against the windows. I was leaning against the door, my arms crossed, pretending I wasn't shaking a little from the way he was looking at me, like I was a puzzle he could solve if he got close enough. I don't think he noticed how my breath caught in my throat when he stepped closer, or how my skin felt tight against my bones when he tilted his head, waiting for me to drop my gaze first. I didn't. Because I wasn't playing. And I think that scared him more than he let on. His confidence was like a heavy scent in the air, mixing with the faint smell of rain that clung to me when I came inside. The collar of his shirt was open, and his hair was messy, like he'd been running his hand through it, trying to decide if he would let himself want me, or if he'd pretend this was all casual, like every other moment with every other girl. I almost smiled because I could already see the cracks in his certainty. He didn't know that I wasn't here to prove I was different. I was here because I was tired of pretending to be small. Because there's something about the way a man's eyes flicker when he realizes you're not afraid to see yourself in his reflection, and that you're not afraid to let him see himself, either. Everyone says that, he said again softly, but there was a tremor in it. And I knew right then that this story wouldn't end the way he thought it would. He didn't know that I don't like filters. I don't like empty words and random touches that leave you cold the second they're over. Ordinariness scares me more than being alone ever could. I've seen people sit across from each other in coffee shops, staring at their phones, pretending they're in love because it's easier than admitting they're bored. I've seen relationships built on silence, not the comforting kind, but the kind that happens when there's nothing real left to say. That's my worst fear. So when I saw that smug, careful look in his eyes, I almost turned around and left. Because I've learned to walk away when I feel that emptiness waiting for me at the end of the night. But something about him made me stay. Maybe it was the way his eyes flickered when I refused to look away, or the way his jaw tensed like he was holding back something he didn't want to show. Maybe it was the way he pretended he was unbothered when I knew deep down that he wasn't. I'm drawn to people who meet my gaze, even when it's uncomfortable. I'm drawn to the tension that fills the space when you're both too aware of what's happening, when every small movement feels like a confession you don't know how to voice yet. He tried to break it with a laugh, shoving his hands into his pockets, glancing away like he could pretend this was nothing. But I could see his fingers tapping against his leg, the way his breath slowed down as I stepped closer. Just close enough for him to feel the heat rising off my skin from the rain, the nerves, the want. "You're quiet now," I said. "You're intense," he replied, almost like a complaint, but his voice betrayed him with the softness at the end. I tilted my head, letting my hair fall to the side, wet strands sticking to my collarbone, the scent of rain and shampoo drifting between us. "Would you rather I play along?" I asked. "Play along with what?" he said, his eyes darting to my lips before he caught himself. "The game you're used to," I whispered. "Where I pretend this doesn't matter and you pretend you're not afraid of it mattering." His shoulders dropped slightly as if something heavy was finally making itself known. I didn't move closer. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, with the storm still dripping from my hair, I knew he was starting to see it. That I wasn't like the others, not because I wanted to be different, but because I didn't know how to be anything else. That night, I came to him in a thin black dress, the rain still clinging to me like a promise I couldn't wash off. My hair was wet, strands sticking to my neck, the droplets sliding down my collarbone, tracing the curve of my shoulder like a secret. I didn't wear makeup. I didn't bring a smile to soften the moment. I didn't bring any masks to hide behind. I just came as I was. I stood in his doorway, the sound of the rain behind me, the hallway light catching on the water in my hair, making it look like stars had fallen and decided to stay there for a while. He opened the door and I saw the way his eyes took me in, the way his jaw tightened, the way he almost reached for me before stopping himself. His confidence was still there, but it was quieter now, like a song he couldn't quite remember the words to. "Do you want to know who I really am?" I asked, my voice soft but steady. His eyes met mine, and for a moment I thought he would look away, like they all do when they realize I'm not asking to be wanted. I'm asking to be seen. "Don't look away," I whispered, stepping inside, letting the warmth of the room kiss the cold off my skin. He didn't. But I saw his hand tremble when he reached up to brush a wet strand of hair from my cheek, and I felt his breath catch when his fingers touched my skin, like he didn't know what to do with what was rising between us. His breathing grew louder and I could feel the way the air shifted between us, like the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. I didn't move away. I let him see the fear in my eyes, the longing, the hunger I had tried to silence for so long. The part of me that wanted to be touched, but not just for the sake of it, touched in a way that meant something, even if it was terrifying. "I don't play games," I said, barely above a whisper. His hand was still on my cheek, warm, shaking, his thumb tracing the line where a raindrop had been. "I know," he said, but I could hear the uncertainty in it, the way he was trying to convince himself he could handle what I was offering. Because I wasn't offering him a night. I was offering him a moment that would leave him changed. His other hand hovered near my waist, hesitant, his fingers twitching as if they were asking permission without words. And in that moment I realized. He didn't know what to do with what he was feeling. And that was the most honest thing about him. I showed him what it means to be real that night. Not in the way most people think. Not in the way that's easy, where you lose yourself in someone else just to feel something for a moment. But in the way that makes your heart pound because you're letting someone see every part you've tried to keep hidden. The way your voice shakes when you admit you're scared of being ordinary. The way your body trembles when you let yourself want something deeply without pretending it's casual. He stood there in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat rolling off him, but still holding back, his hand on my cheek, the other hovering near my waist like he didn't know if it was allowed to rest there. "You can touch me," I whispered, my eyes not leaving his. But he didn't grab me. He didn't rush. His hand settled against my waist so gently it almost broke me. His thumb brushed over the thin fabric of my dress, and I felt my breath catch, my skin tightening beneath the softness of that touch. I could see it in his eyes, how badly he wanted to hide behind confidence, how badly he wanted to say something clever, to laugh it off, to pretend he wasn't shaking. But he didn't. His forehead pressed against mine, and I could feel his breath, warm and uneven, mixing with mine in the small space between us. The rain outside was just a soft hush now, like it was giving us permission to let everything else fall away. "You scare me," he admitted, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. "Why?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Because you're not pretending this doesn't matter." His hand at my waist tightened, just slightly, as if he needed to feel that I was real, that I was here. His thumb brushed against my ribs, and I felt shivers race up my spine, a warmth blooming low in my stomach that made it hard to breathe. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting myself feel it, the trembling in his hands, the heat in the air, the soft weight of the moment pressing down on us, demanding we stay here, fully present. When I opened my eyes, he was already looking at me, his gaze so open, so raw, that it made me want to cry. I lifted my hand to his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart beneath my palm, letting it sink with mine. "Don't hide from me," I whispered. And in that moment, he didn't. He let his forehead drop to my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck, and his arms wrapped around me, not pulling me in with hunger, but holding me with something deeper, something that made my chest ache in the best way. I could feel him shaking, and I realized he was letting himself feel it all: fear, want, hope, confusion, without running from it. I let my hands move to his back, sliding up slowly, feeling the tension in his muscles, the way his breath shuddered every time my fingers brushed over him. It wasn't about claiming each other. It was about letting ourselves be seen exactly as we were. Because in that moment, touch wasn't about sex. It was about the desire to feel alive. His breath was warm against my neck, each exhale a confession he wasn't ready to say out loud. His arms tightened around me like he was afraid I would disappear if he let go, and for a moment, neither of us moved. The only sound was the hush of rain outside and the quiet, uneven rhythm of our breathing. I closed my eyes and let myself feel everything: the way his chest rose and fell against mine, the trembling in his hands as they pressed into the curve of my back, the soft brush of his hair against my cheek. And I felt it, deep and undeniable. This was what I had been searching for. Not a body pressing into mine just to feel wanted, but the warmth of someone holding me because they needed to feel connected, even if it terrified them. "I don't want to mess this up," he whispered, his voice so raw it made something in me ache. "Then don't," I whispered back, my lips brushing against the shell of his ear. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes searching mine for something I wasn't sure he would find. His fingers moved up to my face, brushing a wet strand of hair behind my ear, lingering there as if he was memorizing how it felt to touch me. The way he looked at me then, it was like he was seeing me, really seeing me for the first time. The mask he wore around everyone else was gone, and what was left was soft, scared, and beautiful. His thumb traced the line of my jaw, down to the edge of my chin, before his hand dropped to my collarbone, resting there with the lightest pressure, like he was grounding himself in the reality of me. You're shaking, I said softly. So are you. I almost laughed, but it came out as a breathless sound, a small helpless noise that filled the space between us like a promise. When his forehead touched mine again, I felt it, a small, slow warmth spreading through my chest, the kind that comes when you realize you're safe in someone's arms, even if it's just for a moment. His hand slid down to my waist again, fingers pressing gently, not pulling, not rushing. Just holding. His other hand rested at the back of my neck, his thumb stroking the skin there in slow, trembling circles. It wasn't about claiming. It wasn't about ownership. It wasn't about proving something. It was about the desire to feel. The air around us felt heavier, charged with something I didn't have words for. My skin prickled where he touched me, heat unfurling in slow waves with every careful brush of his thumb against my skin. I let my hands move to his face, my fingers tracing the curve of his jaw, the roughness of the stubble there, the softness of his lips as they parted with a shaky breath when I touched them lightly. He closed his eyes and I saw his shoulders drop, like he was letting himself surrender, just for a moment, to what was happening between us. Don't hide, I whispered again. His eyes opened, and for the first time I saw the confidence slip from his gaze, replaced by something softer, something that made him look younger, more real, more here. And I knew. This was what it meant to be close. To let yourself be touched, not just on your skin, but in the parts of you that you keep hidden from everyone else. To let yourself be seen, even when it's scary. That night, I felt his walls fall away. And I let mine fall too. His lips hovered near mine, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath, but he didn't kiss me, not yet. There was a hush between us, like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for that moment when everything would shift. His hand at the back of my neck tightened, just slightly, and I felt a tremor run down my spine, heat blooming across my skin in soft, insistent waves. I could see it in his eyes, the fear, the want, the hesitation tangled with a quiet desperation to feel something real. His gaze dropped to my lips and for a second, I thought he would pull back, let the moment pass, let the mask slip back into place. But then he whispered, so quietly it was almost a prayer. Don't let me go. It wasn't the words that undid me. It was the way his voice broke, the way his hand trembled against my skin, the way I felt his breath stutter as he exhaled. And I didn't let him go. I pressed closer, letting my body rest against his, feeling the heat between us rise, soft and dangerous. My hand slid into his hair, damp at the edges from the rain, and I tilted my head, letting my nose brush his, letting our breaths mix, letting him feel the way my chest rose and fell, unsteady, matching his. When our lips finally touched, it wasn't a hungry crash, but a slow, trembling question. A moment of "Are you sure?" A moment of "I'm here, I'm here, I'm here." His lips were soft, hesitant at first, like he was afraid of breaking me, but I pressed back, letting the kiss deepen, letting the warmth spread through me, letting my hands pull him closer. And he answered. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me into him, and I felt the world fall away, the storm outside nothing but a soft echo against the window. Every part of me felt alive, every nerve singing, every breath a plea for more. The kiss deepened, but it was never rushed. It was warm, slow, patient, like we were both trying to memorize how it felt to be wanted in a way that wasn't about need alone, but about seeing and being seen. His hand slid down my back, slow, reverent, and I felt shivers spark where his fingers pressed against the thin fabric of my dress, leaving a trail of heat that made it hard to think, hard to breathe. My own hands moved down, resting against his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart, the warmth of his skin through the fabric of his shirt, the way his breath shuddered when I pressed closer. We paused, lips barely apart, our foreheads touching, eyes closed as we breathed each other in, letting the moment settle, letting the reality of it sink into our bones. I'm scared, I whispered, the words catching in my throat. Me too, he breathed, his thumb brushing across my lower lip. And then we kissed again, deeper this time, but still soft, still careful, still full of the trembling truth that we were letting ourselves be seen in a way neither of us had before. Every movement was deliberate, every touch a promise. His hand moved to the small of my back, pulling me closer, and I felt the heat between us, the warmth of his body pressing into mine, the quiet urgency in the way his lips moved against mine. The world was just us in that hush before the lightning. And in that moment, with his hands on me, his breath mixing with mine, his heart racing beneath my palms, I knew. This wasn't about desire alone. This was about the desire to feel alive together. That night, he learned what it means to be real. Not in the way bodies usually collide to silence loneliness for a few hours, but in the way someone's gaze can strip you down to your barest truth. And you let them because you're done hiding. His lips found the corner of my jaw, soft, almost hesitant, like he was afraid I'd disappear if he pressed any harder. My eyes fluttered shut, a breath catching in my throat as heat spilled slowly down my spine, pooling low in my belly in waves that made my knees feel unsteady. His hand moved to my waist, fingers pressing lightly, grounding me. His forehead rested against mine, our breaths mixing, warm and uneven, carrying the hush of words neither of us dared to speak. "You don't have to pretend," I whispered. "I don't want to," he answered, his voice rough, shaking. We stayed like that in the quiet, letting the world outside fade, letting the tension that had lived in both of us unravel with every shaky exhale. His lips brushed mine again, slower this time, a soft question and a promise all at once. When he kissed me, it wasn't to conquer or to take. It was to feel. It was the kind of kiss that leaves you trembling, not from hunger alone, but from the soft, terrifying joy of letting someone see your weakness without shame. The kind of kiss that tells you this moment matters, even if you never say it out loud. His hand slid up my back, pulling me closer until I could feel his heartbeat, fast and wild, matching mine. His breath hitched as I kissed him back, and I felt his fingers tighten, his body pressing closer in a quiet, desperate need for closeness, warmth, truth. There was a moment suspended between the hush of rain outside and the soft hush of our breathing where our eyes met, and we both understood. This wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about playing it cool. It wasn't about pretending we didn't care. It was about the small tremors in his hands as they held me. It was about the soft way I exhaled his name into the space between us. It was about the shivers that ran through me every time his lips brushed against my skin. It was about the way we didn't look away. When he finally rested his forehead against my shoulder, pulling me into a quiet embrace, I felt his breath against my neck, warm, shaky, real. His arms wrapped around me, not to possess, but to keep close. I let my hand slide up to his hair, threading through it gently, letting him feel the way I wanted him there, not because I was lonely, but because I was ready to be seen. We stood there in the glow of the lamp, the rain still whispering against the window, the warmth of our bodies pressed together, letting the silence say what words couldn't. And in that moment, I saw the confidence fade from his eyes, replaced by something softer, more open. Because he wanted to be real too. And as we held each other, trembling and warm, breathing into the hush, I realized I was really not like the others. And for the first time, he wasn't either.